What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about how your human nature works against your goals and how you can get it to work for your goals instead. Now, this might not be the case for all of your goals, but I'm willing to bet that if you click this video, you have at least some room for improvement in getting your habits and goals to work with the grain of your biological wiring instead of against it. There's a really good reason that you might be having difficulty developing what we might popularly call good habits, and why you might have trouble quitting what we might call the bad habits, and why you are a lot more drawn to the bad habits than the good habits. You see, our ancestry goes back over 200,000 years as a species, and we evolved in what scientists call an immediate return environment. As hunter-gatherers, we were forced to be focused on the present or the very near future rather than the distant future because our survival depended on it. All the actions that we took were focused on getting immediate returns. When we saw prey, we went to go hunt it to immediately get our food. When we saw food that we could forage, we went to go gather it because we can eat it in that moment. And when a storm came and we needed shelter, we would seek shelter in that moment. When a predator came, we would seek defenses in that moment. We would seek things out that were instantly gratifying, that would ensure greater chances of survival for the present and the very near future. That is what an immediate return environment is all about. It wasn't until 12 to 10,000 years ago that the first traces of our current delayed return environment came to emerge. And those first traces were through agriculture. But it wasn't until even more recently that we moved towards a dominantly delayed return environment in the way that our society now operates. Now, to get food, rather than seeing it, hunting it, killing it, and eating it, what we do is go to work. And then at the end of a 2-week work period, we get money, we get paid, and then we can go to the grocery store and buy food to consume. We see this theme of delayed returns all over our society now. As a collective, it's how our life functions at large. But when we look at the grand scheme of things, when we go back to the beginning of our species 200,000 years ago, 90% of our time was spent in a immediate return environment. So that is how our brain is wired. We have the same hardware as our Paleolithic ancestors. Our biological wiring still operates as if we live in an immediate return environment. We put greater value on things in the present than we do in the future. When weighing out two options, the one that is more immediately returning takes precedence over the one that has a delayed return. If you were to ask someone if they wanted a six-pack or if they wanted a piece of chocolate cake, they would probably say a six-pack. But everybody has that choice to eat chocolate cake on a regular basis and overconsume calories, or have a healthy lifestyle, exercise regularly, and consume a proper diet, and have a six-pack. Most people would say, if given the immediate choice, waving a magic wand of having a six-pack, they would choose that one. But they don't in practice, in actuality, because it is a delayed return. This phenomenon is known by behavioral economists as hyperbolic discount, or time inconsistency. There's an inconsistency with the way that we weigh our choices based off of which one is closer to us or more immediate, because our brain is wired for an immediate return environment. This is evident in the example that I gave before, in the fact that despite people's best knowledge of having a healthy diet and regularly exercising surmounting to better rates of survival in the long run, and that being optimal in the big picture, most people choose the habits of eating the more instantly gratifying foods and binging Netflix rather than exercising regularly. And like I said, this is because our brain is wired to make those choices. The more instantly gratifying choices our ancestors made were vital for their survival. But we no longer live in an immediate return environment. And now, the more instantly gratifying choices are more often than not the wrong ones when we consider what is best for our health and wellness and our survival long term. To quote the French economist Frédéric Bastiat, It almost always happens that when the immediate consequence is favorable, the later consequences are disastrous, and vice versa. Often, the sweeter the first fruit of the habit, the more bitter are its later fruits. To put it another way, the cost of your good habits are in the present, but the cost of your bad habits are in the future. So there's nothing wrong with you. The desire to eat that donut, to eat that cake, and to stay on the couch instead of getting up and going to the gym is actually hardwired in our brains. So the golden question is, how do we go with the grain of our human nature to implement our good habits? Certainly not everybody with good habits is just doing it out of sheer power of will and going against the grain of their own human nature. Now, before I share what I see as a perfect answer to this question, I want to mention that I'm not just sharing a theoretical answer. I myself have managed to make a daily habit out of cold showers, exercise, a relatively healthy diet, meditation, and nonfiction reading. So the credibility of my answer here is not just theoretical, it is also coming from experiential knowledge. Now back to the answer. Now we can develop the ability to delay instant gratification. We can do this through building up our conscious awareness to stay aware of the implications of our choices and to stay aware of the big picture goals that we have. That's going to make you more likely to think twice when choosing the unhealthy meal versus the healthy meal. And while it is important to develop an ability to delay instant gratification, that alone is not enough. What we've learned so far is that for us to favor a habit and to select that habit repeatedly, it needs to be at least somewhat instantly gratifying. And those habits that I mentioned before that are part of my everyday lifestyle, taking a cold shower, meditating, exercising, eating a relatively healthy diet, and reading nonfiction every single day, those all do feel at least somewhat instantly gratifying. But the reason that those feel instantly gratifying to me now is because I've already done them for a long time, to the point where I now reap the benefits and the rewards of all those habits on a regular basis, and they are observable to me in my conscious awareness. But it wasn't always like that. When I started to work out, I felt weak. I looked weak when I looked in the mirror. I thought that, that looks like a weak person. But now, after my workout, I see a six-pack staring back at me in a mirror. And while I'm working out, I feel really strong. So I feel that instant gratification through exercising now. When I started to meditate, I wasn't noticing the effects right away. I wasn't noticing that I had more clarity and more peace of mind. But now, after meditating for a long time, I noticed that. And so meditation is instantly gratifying for me because I associate it with that reward. And I feel that reward in my waking life every single day. The same goes for my reading habit. I noticed that I was learning a lot after I had been reading for a while, and I was being more creative in my work. Again, after I had been doing it for a little while. Same thing with eating healthy, same thing with my cold showers. The theme applies all across the board that it took me a while to start noticing the rewards and feeling intrinsically motivated by them. Now, this is going to be the case for anyone. Once they start noticing the rewards of a habit, they will feel intrinsically motivated by it. But the hard part is getting it to be a habit. Once it's a habit, it becomes pretty easy. By definition, a habit is quite automated. So when I wake up, I take a cold shower and then I go work out. I don't think twice about it. But in the beginning, it's really hard to take a behavior that we think will help us accomplish our goals and turn it into a habit, because the goal is in the future and the behavior is in the present. And the thing is that we have a choice to not partake in that behavior and do something that's more instantly gratifying instead. So instead of waking up in the morning and going to work out, if you haven't developed your workout practice into a habit yet, you are going to want to take the more immediate reward of hitting the snooze button and going back to sleep. That is more immediately gratifying. So to get our human nature to work with our goals and not against them, we need to have some sort of instant gratification. And after you do a good behavior long enough to the point where it becomes a habit and you notice the benefits and you notice the rewards in your day-to-day life, it is going to become intrinsically motivating on its own, intrinsically rewarding on its own. But the problem is, in the beginning, it isn't intrinsically motivating. So how do we get past the beginning stages of it to get to a point where we are intrinsically motivated by the behavior or by the habit itself? I personally noticed the positive effects of keeping a checklist. And a lot of people report the same thing. Keeping a checklist so that you can write down all of the good habits that you want, or all the good behaviors rather, because there won't be habits yet, that you want to implement into your day. And then after you do them, you go ahead and cross them off your checklist. You are going to feel an immediate reward, even just a little bit, from crossing that thing off your checklist, because you feel a sense of integrity. You feel a sense of success. And that feeling of success is in itself rewarding. Another really helpful thing that you can do to feel immediately rewarded by a behavior that doesn't yet feel intrinsically rewarding is to go ahead and give yourself some sort of external reward because of it. So for example, after you meditated, you can go ahead and have one of your favorite snacks. Or after you exercised, you can go ahead and play a video game for 10 minutes that you really like. By giving yourself that reward afterwards, you are creating an association of this behavior that you're a little bit reluctant to do, even though you know you should do it, gets me this thing that is instantly gratifying. Like I said, that's just in the beginning. The beginning is the hardest part. Taking a behavior and making it into a habit is the hardest part of the habit itself. Once it's a habit, it becomes easy. By definition, it's more automated. It is more effortless. So, just to sum up, our biological wiring evolved in an immediate return environment. This makes us much more likely to choose things that are more instantly gratifying rather than delaying gratification for choosing things that we know are going to serve us better in the long run. Our environment has now changed into a delayed return environment, but we're still living with the biological wiring as if it's an immediate return environment. So there's a conflict there. To make the necessary changes to get our biological wiring to work for our goals and for implementing good habits, rather than against our goals and implementing the bad habits, yes, we can develop an ability to delay instant gratification by developing more awareness, and you can develop more awareness by utilizing a meditation practice, but that in itself is not enough. You need to find a way to make the behavior instantly gratifying, at least a little bit. You want to feel successful from the behavior. You can do that by giving yourself an external reward, like the examples that I gave, as well as keeping a list of the things that you wanted to do, keeping a list of the behaviors that you want to implement as habits, and crossing them off your list on a regular basis once you perform them. That is going to help you get that successful feeling, and that successful feeling is going to be instantly gratifying. But after a while, the need for external rewards will fall away because the behavior itself will become intrinsically rewarding on its own after you start to see the benefits and reap the rewards. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a like, comment, let me know what you thought, and subscribe to my channel for more valuable content like this. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one.